Shalom, 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 Israel. Happy Sabbath. It is May 21st, 2022, and we are happy to be in the house of the Lord. And here we are again to give the Lord all the praises and the honor and the glory. We just ushered up prayers. We generally do before we push the record button. We're going to get into the reading of the laws like we generally do. Before we do, share this video, like this video, reach out so that you can learn how to put your brick in the building up of the nation of Israel. All right, here we go.
Mute yourself.
The laws. Ecclesiasticus chapter 39, verse 1. But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient, and be occupied in prophecies. He will keep the sayings of the renowned men, and where subtle parables are, he will be there also. He will seek out the secrets of grave sentences, and be conversant in dark parables. He shall serve among great men, and appear before princes. He will travel through strange countries, for he hath tried the good and the evil among men. Where we at?
567. Mm-hmm. 567. There it is. Not to curse any upstanding Jew. Leviticus 19:14. Thou shalt not curse the deaf, nor put a stumbling block before the blind, but shall fear thy God. I am the Lord.
Anybody who knows evidence must testify in court. Leviticus chapter 5, verse 1. And if the soul sin and hear the voice of swearing, and is a witness whether he hath seen or known of it, if he do not utter it, then he shall bear his iniquity.
Carefully interrogate the witness. Deuteronomy 13:15. Thou shalt surely smite the inhabitants of that city with the edge of the sword, destroying it utterly, and all that is therein, and the cattle thereof, with the edge of the sword.
A witness must not serve as a judge in capital crimes. Deuteronomy chapter 19, verse 17. Then both the men between whom the controversy is shall stand before the Lord, before the priest and the judges, and shall be in those days, which shall be in those days.
Not to accept testimony from a lone witness. Deuteronomy 19:15. One witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity or for any sins, in any sin that he sinned, at the mouth of two witnesses, and at the mouth of three witnesses shall the matter be established.
Transgressors must not testify. Exodus chapter 23, verse 1. Thou shalt not raise a false report. Put not thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness.
Relatives of the litigants must not testify. Deuteronomy 24:16. The father shall not be put to death for the children, neither shall the children be put to death for the fathers. Every man shall be put to death for his own sin.
Not to testify falsely. Deuteronomy chapter 19, verse 16. If a witness rise up against any man to testify against him that which is wrong.
Punish the false witness as they tried to punish the defendant. Deuteronomy 19:19. Then shall you do unto him as he had thought to have done unto his brother. So shalt thou put evil away from among you.
Act according to the ruling of the Sanhedrin. Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 11. According to the sentence of the law, which they shall teach thee, and according to the judgment, which they shall tell thee, thou shalt do. Thou shalt not decline from the sentence which they shall show thee to the right hand, nor to the left.
Not to deviate from the word of the Sanhedrin. Deuteronomy 17:11. According to the sentence of the law, which they shall teach thee, and according to the judgment which they shall tell thee, thou shalt not do. Thou shalt not decline.
Thou shalt do.
I'm sorry.
Thou shalt do.
Oh, thou shalt do. Thou shalt not decline from the sentence which they shall show thee to the right hand, nor to the left.
Not to add to the Torah commandments or their oral explanations. Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 1. If there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and giveth thee a sign or a wonder.
Not to diminish from the Torah any commandments, in whole or in part. Deuteronomy 13:1. If there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and giveth thee a sign or a wonder.
Not to curse your father and mother. Exodus chapter 21, verse 17. And he that curseth his father or his mother shall surely be put to death.
Not to strike your father or mother. Exodus 21:15. And he that smiteth his father or his mother shall be surely put to death.
Respect your father or mother. Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee.
Fear your father and mother. Leviticus 19:3. Ye shall fear every man his mother and his father, and keep my Sabbath. I am the Lord your God.
Not to be a rebellious son. Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 18. If a man have a stubborn and rebellious son, which will not obey the voice of his father or the voice of his mother, and that, when they have chastened him, will not hearken unto them.
Mourn for relatives. Leviticus 10:19. And Aaron said unto Moses, Behold, this day have they offered their sin offerings and their burnt offerings before the Lord, and such things have befallen me. And if I had eaten the sin offering today, should I have been accepted in the sight of the Lord.
The high priest must not defile himself for any relative. Leviticus chapter 21, verse 11. Neither shall he go into any dead body, nor defile himself for his father or for his mother.
The high priest must not enter under the same roof of a corpse. Leviticus 21:11. Neither shall he go into any dead body, nor defile himself for his father or for his mother.
A Cohen must not defile himself by going to funerals or cemeteries for anyone except relatives. Leviticus chapter 21, verse 1. And the Lord said, Moses, speak unto the priests, the sons of Aaron, and say unto them, there shall none be defiled for the dead among his people.
Appoint a king from Israel. Deuteronomy 17:15. Thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom the Lord thy God shall choose. One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee. Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother.
Not to appoint a foreigner as king over the nation of Israel. Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 15. Thou shalt in any wise set him king over thee, whom the Lord thy God shall choose. One from among thy brethren shalt thou set king over thee. Thou mayest not set a stranger over thee, which is not thy brother.
The king must not multiply too many wives to himself. Deuteronomy 17 and 17. Neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn not away. Neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold.
The king must not have too many horses. Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 16. But he shall not multiply horses to himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt, to the end that he should multiply horses. For as much as the Lord hath said unto you, ye shall henceforth return no more that way.
The king must not have too much silver and gold. Deuteronomy 17 and 17. Neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn not away. Neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold.
Destroy the 7 Canaanite nations. Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse 17. But thou shalt utterly destroy them, namely the Hittites and the Amorites, the Canaanites and the Perizzites, the Hivites and the Jebusites, as the Lord thy God hath commanded thee.
Not to let any of the 7 Canaanite nations remain alive. Deuteronomy 20 and 16. But of the city of these people, which the Lord thy God doth give thee for an inheritance, thou shalt save alive nothing that breatheth.
Wipe out the memory of Amalek. Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 19. Therefore it shall be, when the Lord thy God hath given thee rest from all thine enemies round about, in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance to possess it, that thou shalt blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Thou shalt not forget it.
Remember what Amalek did to the children of Israel. Deuteronomy 25 and 17. Remember what Amalek did to thee by the way, when ye were come forth out of Egypt.
Not to forget Amalek's atrocities and ambush on our journey from Egypt in the desert. Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 19. Therefore it shall be, when the Lord thy God hath given thee rest from all thine enemies round about, in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance to possess it, that thou shalt blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Thou shalt not forget it.
Not to dwell permanently in Egypt. Deuteronomy 17 and 16. But he shall not multiply horses to himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt, to the end that he should multiply horses. For as much as the Lord had said unto you, ye shall henceforth return no more that way.
Offer peace terms to the inhabitants of a city while holding siege, and treat them according to the Torah if they accept the terms. Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse 10. When thou comest nigh unto a city to fight against it, then proclaim peace unto it.
Not to offer peace to Ammon or Moab while besieging them. Deuteronomy 23 and 7. Thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, for he is thy brother. Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian, because thou wast a stranger in his land.
Not to destroy food trees even during the siege. Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse 19. When thou shalt besiege a city a long time, in making war against it to take it, thou shalt not destroy the trees thereof by forcing an axe against them. For thou mayest eat of them, and thou shalt not cut them down. For the tree of the field is man's life. to employ them in the siege.
Prepare the trees outside the camps. Deuteronomy 23:13. And thou shalt have a paddle, upon thy weapon. And it shall be when thou wilt ease thyself abroad, thou shalt dig therewith, and shall return back and cover that which cometh from thee.
Prepare a shovel for each soldier to dig with. Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 14. For the Lord thy God walketh in the midst of thy camp to deliver thee, and to give up thine enemies before thee. Therefore shall thy camp be holy, that he see no unclean thing in thee, and turn away from thee.
Appointed priests to speak with the soldiers during the war. Deuteronomy 20:22. And it shall be,
20 verse 2.
thank you. Deuteronomy verse 20, verse 2. And it shall be, when ye are come nigh unto the battle, that the priest shall approach and speak unto the people.
He who has taken a wife, built a new home, or planted a vineyard is given a year to rejoice with his possessions. Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 5. When a man hath taken a new wife, he shall not go out to war, neither shall he be charged with any business, but he shall be free at home 1 year, and shall cheer up his wife, which he hath taken.
Not to demand from the above any involvement, communal or military. Deuteronomy 24:5. When a man hath taken a new wife, he shall not go out to war, neither shall he be charged with any business, but he shall be free at home 1 year, and shall cheer up his wife which he hath taken.
Not to panic and retreat during battle. Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse 3. And shall say unto them, Hear, O Israel, ye approach this day unto battle against your enemies. Let not your hearts faint, fear not, and do not tremble, neither be ye terrified because of them.
Keep the laws of the captive women. Deuteronomy 21:11. And seeth among the captive a beautiful woman. Did I say that right? And has a desire unto her, that thou wouldest have her to thy wife.
Not to sell a captive woman into slavery. Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 14. And it shall be, if thou have no delight in her, then thou shalt let her go whether she will. But thou shalt not sell her at all for money. Thou shalt not make merchandise of her, because thou hast humbled her.
Not to retain a captive woman for servitude after having sexual relationships with her. Deuteronomy 21:14. And it shall be, if thou have not delighted in her, if thou have no delight in her, then thou shalt let her go whether she will. But thou shalt not sell her at all for money. Thou shalt not make merchandise of her, because thou hast humbled her.
And we'll start with number 1 next time.
All right.
All right. This week, I once again, I can't say that I have a title. Let's call this Proverbs 22:29. We'll call this Proverbs 22:29. And it's really what that passage says is the basis of tonight's class. What this passage says is where is the everything that we want to study tonight. Okay, so I have some videos. Most likely, if you watch this recorded video on YouTube and the editing, I will most likely be deleting that portion from the footage. So if you're online with us right now, then awesome, because you get to watch these videos. But for copyright sake, and you're watching this via YouTube, then most likely you won't get to see those videos. All right. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 29. And just give you a little backdrop. So Thursday night, I'm working with one of my private students, and I'm telling her, I'm encouraging her to watch videos of great musicians. And so I played this video of this one violinist, and the dude is bad, you know. He's bad. And I'm reminded of Michael Jackson and the story of Michael Jackson, how Michael Jackson was constantly watching videos of Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly, and Michael Jackson kept his attention on great people. Mike Tyson, he kept his attention on great people, meaning in the arena of what was going on, of his craft. And in talking about that, I was reminded of this passage. Let's read this passage.
Proverbs 22 and 29. Seest thou man diligent in his business?
Mm-hmm.
He shall stand before kings.
He shall stand before kings. You see a man diligent in his business? Mike Tyson was diligent in his business. Michael Jackson was diligent in his business. You see great men diligent in their business, they're going to stand before great kings. Okay, read.
He shall not stand before mean men.
He shall not stand before mean men. Okay, so let's write this word diligent down. Write the word diligent down. So Proverbs 22 and 29 is the epicenter of tonight's class. Seest thou a man diligent in his business? He shall stand before kings. He shall not stand before mean men. Write the word diligent down. Write the word diligent down. And so let's look at some examples, biblical examples, get an understanding of this word diligent. Let's go to Joshua chapter 22 and verse 5. Joshua chapter 22, verse 5.
Book of Joshua chapter 22.
Bear with me. Let me have a difficult. There you go. There you go. I'm ready.
Joshua chapter 22 and verse 5. But take diligent heed to do the commandment and the law.
So here we see this word diligent, and off the bat, what is it teaching us? To keep the law, to do the law. So we know first and foremost, especially because we teach it every single week, every single day, every time we get on the telephone with one another, what have you, we're constantly, hold your hand on Joshua 22. Hold your hand right there. Let me digress one quick second. Go to Revelation chapter 14, verse 12. Revelation chapter 14, verse 12. This is not in my notes, but
The book of Revelations chapter 14, verse 12. Here is the patience of the saints.
Here is the patience of the saints. When we get on, we understand, because we've already studied it and we looked at precepts dealing with saints, that we understand that we are the saints. Here's the patience of the saints. Read.
Here are they that keep the commandments of God.
The Bible says, here are they that keep the commandments of God. Go ahead.
And the faith of Jesus.
In our everyday conversation, we understand that there is two things wherein we operate by. We operate in keeping the commandments. We operate in keeping the faith. That's what we operate. That's how we operate. So then, okay, it doesn't surprise us that when we look at this word diligent, off the flip, it's telling us to keep the commandments. Go back to Joshua chapter 22, verse 5.
Read that again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The book of Joshua, chapter 22 and verse 5. But take diligent heed to do the commandment and the law.
Diligent. It says take diligent heed. Diligent heed. Get on top of it right away. Read.
Which Moses, the servant of the Lord, charged you.
Mm-hmm.
To love the Lord your God, and to walk in all his ways.
And to walk in all his ways. Read.
And to keep his commandments.
Uh-huh.
And to cleave unto him. And to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul.
So, you see a man diligent in his business, and especially a man that's not going to stand before mean men. Well, we understand that this man, or woman for that matter, that this man is a man who first and foremost is walking after the mind, the heart and mind of the Father, the Most High, keeping the commandments, learning the commandments. That's how this man's going to move. Okay? Go to Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 24. Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 24.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 12 and verse 24.
Uh-huh.
The hand of the diligent shall bear rule. But
you know what that means? The hand shall bear rule. You're going to be the one in charge. You're going to be the one in charge of that nation, of that country, of that city, of that municipality, of that land, of that business, of that school. You're going to be the one in charge of that household. You're going to be the one in charge. Read it from the top.
Proverbs 12 and 24. The hand of the diligent shall bear rule, but the slothful shall be. But the
slothful, you're slothful, you're lazy, you're constantly laying in the bed, you're waiting to the last minute, procrastinator. What does it say about the slothful? Start from the slothful.
But the slothful shall be under tribute.
You're always paying someone for the services that are necessary. You're always paying someone for the services that are necessary.
Because of your procrastination.
Because of your procrastination. You're not diligent.
Late fees.
Punishment. Yeah, whatever it is. You don't rule the nation. You are a citizen or a denizen to a nation.
Docking pay.
You're not the governor or mayor of that state, of that country, of that municipality. You are a citizen or a denizen of that place. You're not the business owner. You are the worker or the slave. You're the oppressed. Okay, that's what it is. Slothful shall be under tribute. Tribute is funds that you pay. That's money you pay. Okay, go to Proverbs chapter 27, verse 23. Proverbs chapter
7 and 23.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 27, and verse 23. Be thou diligent to know the state of thy flock.
Read that again.
Be thou diligent to know the state of thy flock.
The Bible tells us to be diligent in knowing the state of the flock. So first and foremost, that goes to the men. You need to know what's going on with the people. What are they dealing with? What issues do they have? So that we can quickly come up with solutions to resolve these issues, to reconcile these issues. So it says, look diligently to the flock. Sisters, that don't leave you out. That does not leave you out. What is the husband in need of? Because he's the one breaking his back, getting out there, and so on and so forth. So what is the household in need of? Proverbs chapter, don't go there, but Proverbs chapter 31 paints the picture of a virtuous woman. Proverbs chapter 31, verse 10 on out, paints the picture. Okay. Did you read all of that? 20?
I'll read from the top.
Yes, sir.
Proverbs 27 to 23. Be thou diligent to know the state of thy flock, and look well to thy herds.
And look well to thy herds. Make sure that all the needs are there for the people, for the animals, for whatever it is, in building up our nation. Okay. Go to 2 Peter's chapter 3, verse 14. Second Peter chapter 3 and verse 14.
The book of 2 Peter, chapter 3 and verse 14. Wherefore, beloved, seeing that ye look for such things, be diligent that ye may be found of him in peace.
Such things, what are we looking for? We look for the second coming of Christ our Lord. When we look further up in this chapter, we're looking for the second coming of Christ our Lord. And we understand that, and further up in this chapter, that when he comes, it ain't going to be peaches and cream. As a matter of fact, you know what? Why don't you start at verse
11.
Start at verse 5. No, verse 4.
2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 4.
You know what? My apologies. Read verse 2. We're going to skip a little bit. Read verse 2.
2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 2. That ye may be mindful of words which were spoken before by the holy prophet, and of the commandments of us, the apostles of the Lord and Savior. Knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers.
So he's giving us an understanding that, okay, in the last days, here are some things to watch out for, some look fors, as they would be called. Here are some look fors for us to have an understanding of how close are we to the end days, to the second coming of Christ. Read.
Walking after their own lust.
Their own lust, you're walking after your own desire. And your desire is a desire that does not line up with biblical principles. Your desire is a desire that does not line up with biblical principles. Read.
And saying, where is the promise of his coming?
See, there we go. Where is the promise of his coming? There's the point right there in what we're reading in terms of verse 14. Continue.
For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation.
Read.
For this they willingly are ignorant of, that by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth earth standing out of the water and in the
The
water.
Bible says that you are willingly ignorant of these things. This is your choice. And yet you use these diversionary tactics to behave as though it's you. It's you. Look at me. I'm pointing to myself. Here I am having a conversation with an individual, and the individual says to me, that's your opinion. How is it my opinion when I'm reading the text? How is that a matter of my opinion? I'm reading the text. If you disagree with what I'm reading, meaning you find that I'm in error with what I'm reading, why not bring forth the evidence using the text to show me where I'm off? No, that's not the deal. You disagree because you want to follow your own lust. That's why you disagree. And therefore you are willingly ignorant of. I used an analogy with an individual just the other day, only for that individual to demonstrate how willingly they were to pursue their own lust. Keep going.
2 Peter chapter 3, verse 6. Whereby the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished.
Mm-hmm.
But the heavens and the earth, which are now by the same word kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men.
And that day is going to come. These nuclear bombs are not being created just to be stored in silos.
Mm-hmm.
These nuclear weapons are being created because they are going to be used. When? I don't know. Soon, but when? I don't know. 5 days from now, 5 months from now, 5 years from now, I don't know. Read.
8. But, beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years,
Mm-hmm.
and 1,000 years as one day.
And 1,000 years is one day. So what we constitute as 1,000 years to the Lord, he constitutes it as one day, and vice versa. Read 9.
9. The Lord is not slack concerning his promise.
See, that's the thing right there. See, we think because punishment, judgment doesn't come right away, that I got away with that. No. That judgment is coming. You've been playing all this time. You know what? I looked up a friend on Facebook just because of one thing had prompted my curiosity. So I pulled this person's name up on Facebook only to see that you pull it up on Facebook and it shows what you into, right? The things that you're into. I like these books, I like these movies, yada yada yada. So there was this link that, and this was like the first thing you see, Antichrist memes, or Antichrist something is what it said. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, wow, this is where this individual has now gone. This individual has now left, because this individual used to be an individual who was reading scriptures and so on and so forth. Now this individual is Antichrist. Antichrist. Now, just the fact that you have left, your mind has left, that's That's a mild judgment. A worse judgment is coming your way. A far worse judgment is coming your way. Okay? Read on.
2 Peter chapter 3, verse 9. The Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some men count slackness, but is long suffering to usward, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance.
All the elect are going to come to repentance. Read.
10. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise.
See, he's painting the picture. He's telling us how the end is going to go. He's telling us how the end is going to go. He says, but the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, when you least expect it. And then he goes on to tell us, the heavens shall pass away with a great noise. That's nuclear bombs. Boom! And it's over. And he says that the elements, you look at the periodic table chart, helium and what's helium and help me out, is it oxygen? 1 and number 2?
I talk for atom bomb.
Hydrogen, helium and hydrogen are the smallest elements on the periodic chart. He says the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The elements are going to melt. Think about that. Are going to melt with fervent heat. That leaf, boom, blown away. You, woof, blown away with fervent heat. Read.
The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up.
See that? I'm not making it up. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. Now tell me that's my interpretation. Brother, that's your interpretation. How? You interpreted that wrong. That don't mean that. Oh, okay. Okay. Read on.
11. Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved.
Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved. Go on.
What manner of person ought ye be in all holy conversation?
That's a question. That is a question. He's begging a question for you. He's throwing it out for you to beg upon yourself. What manner of person should I be? That's a question. Read.
What manner of person ought ye be in all holy conversation?
In all holy conversation. Read.
And godliness. 12. Looking for and hasting unto the coming of the day of God.
That's how we should be. We are looking for it, and we are hasting for it. We're diligently on the lookout for the second coming of our Lord, our King, Christ, the Messiah. Read.
Wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Now, that was a question. Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and new earth.
See that? We look for a new heaven and a new earth. Read.
Wherein dwelleth righteousness.
Wherein dwelleth righteousness. In this new heaven and new earth, if you ain't righteous, you ain't keeping the commandments and the faith of Christ, you ain't entering in. This is not a place for you. Read. 14.
Wherefore, beloved, seeing that ye look for such things, be diligent that ye may be
there it
found.
Is. Be diligent. Therefore, Be diligent. I'm sorry, wherefore, be diligent. Read.
Wherefore, beloved, seeing that ye look for so much for such things, be diligent that ye may be found of him in peace, without spot and blameless.
Without spot and blameless. Be blameless. Diligent. Okay. Go to Sirach, chapter 38. We're going to start at verse 24. We're going to read 24 through 34. Sirach, chapter 38, verse 24 through 34.
The book of Sirach, chapter 38, 38, and verse 24. The wisdom of a learned man cometh by opportunity of leisure.
Look at the heading. Wisdom. Wisdom cometh. Wisdom cometh. Wisdom of a learned man cometh. How? By opportunity and of leisure. Free time. Downtime. Sacrificing time. Okay? Any of those gives you the leisure. Free time, downtime, sacrificial time. Meaning your eyes are heavy. Oh, and you standing up to keep yourself awake so that you can program in you wisdom. These scriptures. Meaning we don't have time to be making excuses. Read.
Sirach, chapter 38, verse 24. The wisdom of a learned man cometh by opportunity of leisure.
Mm-hmm.
And he that hath little business shall become wise.
He that hath little business shall become wise. You don't have I remember it was in Living Color, long time ago, they made a joke about Benjamin, Jamaicans, saying how they have so many jobs. You lazy bum, you only have 3 jobs. Me and your mama, we have 6 jobs, and you only have 3 jobs. You lazy bum. That was the that was the skit. But here in America, I mean, it's not uncommon, especially in our communities. We have 2 and 3 jobs. We're in single family households. Marriages are broken up, and we got to do what we got to do. And it's a problem that does not promote any kind of goodness. Most often, it doesn't promote any kind of goodness. Why do I say that? Mama working 2 jobs because daddy ain't around. Child is raising itself. Child goes to school and is a miscreant of all miscreants because there is no discipline coming to the child. Teacher calls home for the child to say, hey, this miscreant little boy right here. But sad to say, when the teacher calls home, mom is unavailable. I can't talk right now. I'm sitting at my desk. I can't. Mom, I'm calling about your child. I'll deal with him when I get home. Well, you ain't gonna get home till midnight. He should be asleep when you get home. Because here it is, 11 o'clock in the morning. This is job number 1, and then you're gonna get to job number 2. Go ahead, Elvis.
That's not an everyday word that we hear, miscreant.
Miscreant. A bad A.
When you say bad A, you mean like a grade?
Bad apple. A bad apple. Got worms going through it. Read on.
Sirach 38:25. How can he give wisdom that holdeth the plow, and that glorieth in the gold. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
That driveth oxen, and is occupied in their labors, and whose talk is of bullocks.
See, when you labor, so here the example is a farmer, right? Agroforestry, agriculture. You're constantly thinking about the business you got to get done. You're up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You know, you got to do all these chores. You got to go feed the animals this, feed the animals that. You got to latch the yoke on to the cows this, so that you can plow the land this and that. And you're trying to figure out, how can I increase my yield? How can I fatten these cows even more so that I can take more to the market for a return? And this is true in any business when your occupation is business. Read.
26. He giveth his mind to make furrows, and is diligent to give the kind fodder.
Mm-hmm. See?
So every carpenter and workmaster that laboreth night and day, and they that cut and grave steels, and are diligent to make great variety, and giveth themselves to counterfeiters emerging.
Mm-hmm. Counterfeit imagery. Mm-hmm.
And watch to finish a work.
So the carpenter, he's diligent in all the engravings that he does. He's diligent with all the cuttings he does. That's where his mind is, day in and day out. He's constantly thinking about this crown molding. He's constantly thinking about the leaf cuttings and so on and so forth that he's going to do, so that when he completes a job, it's mastery, and the client is happy, and he gets he's able to show, hey, this is the work I can do, hire me for the next job. Okay, read on.
28. The smith also sitting by the anvil and considering the ironwork, the vapor of the fire wastes his flesh, and he fighteth with the heat of the furnace. The noise of the hammer and the anvil is ever in his ears, and his eyes look still upon the pattern of the thing that he maketh. He set his mind to finish his work, and watches the polish it perfectly.
Mm-hmm. And watch to polish it perfectly. Keep reading.
29. So doth the potter sitting at his work and turning the wheel about with his feet, who is always carefully set at his work, and maketh all his work by number.
Mm-hmm. Keep going.
What is that?
He fashioned it.
Thank you. He fashioned the clay with his arm.
Okay.
And bowed down his strength before his feet. He applied himself to lead it over.
So we see constantly all these different vocations: the farmer, the carpenter, the craftsman. We see all these, and when this is your job, you don't have the time to study in the matters that matter. Because what matters most of all is the word of God. Learning these laws, memorizing these laws, understanding how you can be chief among men within our nation, to lead our people, to help our people, to teach our people. Read on.
And he is diligent to make clean the furnace. All these trust to their hands, and everyone is wise in his work.
And see, all these vocations, all these men and women, all these laborers, they trust in their hands. That's where their trust is, the ability to fashion this chauffeur and so forth. That's where their trust is. Okay, read on.
32. Without these cannot a city be inhabited, and they shall not dwell where they will.
So, but the passage is also letting us know that at the same time, a city must have these laborious individuals in order to build up the city. At the same time, the city must have these individuals to build up the city. So remember, we read at the very top, wisdom of a learned man cometh by opportunity of leisure. You have free time, you have sacrificial time, you're making time to study the word of God. Read.
Nor go up and down. 33. They shall not be sought for in public. Is that public? Public council?
They should not be, those individuals are not going to be sought in public council because they're not the chief men. Those individuals are not going to be sought where God's judgments are concerned in terms of judging the people. Read.
They shall not be sought for in public council, nor sit high in the congregation.
They're not going to sit at the leadership table because they don't have the time to devote to study the word of God, to study and practice the word of God. Their study time and practice time is with their hands. They're becoming great master laborers. Read.
They shall not sit on the judge's seat, nor understand the sentence of judgment. They cannot declare justice and judgment.
They can't declare justice and judgment. When a situation comes up, dealing with marriage, dealing with the loss of life, dealing with I can't think of any examples off the top of my head other than those two. But when it's time to go into the rooms and counsel the man or woman or couple in the body of the nation of Israel, they're not fully equipped. They're not fully equipped to counsel the people, to help the people so that the people can elevate, can rise and move forward, understanding God's judgments and concerns. Read.
And they shall not be found where parables are spoken, but they will maintain the state of the world.
Read that again.
But they will maintain the state of the world.
But they will maintain the state of the world. Let lights go out. We call him the electrician. Let the plumber get backed up. We call him the plumber. They will maintain the state of the world. Read.
And all their desire is in the work of their craft.
Okay. Now, let's look at some examples of some individuals who are diligent. Of some individuals who are diligent. The first one, write this man's name down. Patrice Lumumba. It's on the board. It's on the board. Patrice Lumumba. Okay, it's on the board. This brother right here. This was a diligent brother. Okay. Brother Marquise, read for me, please.
Patrice Lumumba. Patrice Emery Lumumba, alternatively styled Patrice.
Start right here.
Patrice Emery Lumumba was a Congolese politician and independence leader who served as the first prime minister of the Independent Democratic Republic of the Congo. From June until September 1960, he played a significant role in the transformation of the Congo from a colony of Belgium into an independent republic. Ideology, an African nationalist and Pan-Africanist, he led the Congolese National Movement (MNC) party from 1958 until he was assassinated.
So they assassinated this man. Here was a great leader of ours, and they assassinated him. Okay, continue.
Shortly after Congolese independence in 1960, a mutiny broke out in the army, marking the beginning of the Congo crisis. Lumumba appealed to the United States and the United Nations for help to suppress the Belgian-supported Katangatan secessionists led by Maurice Chomby.
Mhm.
Both refused due to suspicions among the Western world that Lumumba ambiguously held pro-communist views. These suspicions deepened when Lumumba turned to the Soviet Union for assistance, which the CIA described as a classic communist takeover. This led to growing differences with President Joseph Kasavubu and Chief of Staff Joseph Desiree
Mhm.
Mobutu, as well as with the United States and Belgium, who opposed the Soviet Union in the Cold War.
Okay, pause there.
Man. Yeah, moving on.
Okay, we're not done with Patrice. Let's get a little more on Patrice. So now the name of this video, who is Patrice Lumumba, Congo's independence hero. Okay, write this down because this may not be in the video, in the YouTube version of tonight's class. Okay, I'm gonna play it for us right now, but when you try to go back and watch it, it's gonna be deleted. Okay. Benaya, get the door, please.
Malcolm X called him the greatest black man who ever left the African continent.
The next name I want you to write down. The next name I want you to write down. Thomas Sankara. Thomas Sankara. And I'm going to give you the spelling. Be patient with me. Thomas Sankara. He too was diligent. There's the spelling of his name. Okay. Okay. Once again, read for me.
Thomas Isidore Noel Sankara was a Burkinabe military officer, Marxist revolutionary, and Pan-Africanist president of Burkina Faso from his coup in 1983 to his deposition and murder in 1987. Viewed by
so here again, here's another brother that is assassinated. And these men are men fighting for the liberation of Black people. These are men fighting for the liberation of Black people, and not just fighting for civil rights, but fighting for self-determination. It's a huge word. Fighting for self-determination, meaning we're the ones in control. We control our destiny. Okay, read on.
Viewed by supporters as a charismatic and iconic figure of revolution, he is commonly referred to as Africa's Che Guevara.
Mm-hmm.
After being appointed prime minister in 1983, disputes with the sitting government led to Sankara's eventual imprisonment. While he was under house arrest, a group of revolutionaries seized power on his behalf in a popularly supported coup later that year. Age 33,
He was a young man. He was a young man. Age 33. He was a young man. Read.
Age 33, Sankara became the president of the Republic of Upper Volta. He immediately launched programs for social, ecological, and economic change and renamed the country from the French colonial name Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, land of incorruptible people.
Land of incorruptible people. That's what we just read in Peter's. That's what we just read in Peter's. Read.
With his people being called Burkinabe, upright people. His foreign policies were centered on anti-imperialism, while he rejected aid from organizations such as the International Monetary Fund. Sankara welcomed foreign aid from other sources, but tried to reduce reliance on aid by boosting domestic revenues and diversifying the source of assistance.
See that? He said, we're not going to depend on you. This is what we come to class. I said this last week or the week before. We come to class every single week so we can become one-minded in the mindset of our Father and our King, Christ, so that we can make moves to build the kingdom, so that we are not reliant on another nation for our needs. That's dangerous. That kind of movement is dangerous. Other forces don't want you to make those kind of moves. Okay? Sankara welcomed foreign aid from other sources, but tried to reduce reliance on aid by boosting domestic revenues and diversifying the sources of assistance. Continue.
His domestic policies were focused on preventing famine with agrarian self-sufficiency and land reform, prioritizing education with the nationwide literacy campaign, and promoting public health by vaccinating more than 2 million children against meningitis, yellow fever, and measles, which saved the lives of 18,000 to 50,000 children annually. His government focused on building schools, health centers, water reservoirs, and nearly 100 kilometers of rail.
Of rail.
I'm sorry. With
Meaning,
little or no
rail meaning train.
Okay.
The ability to move goods, move people across the land. Read.
With little or no external assistance. Total cereal production rose by 75% between 1983 and 1986. Other components of his national agenda included planting over 10 million trees to combat the growing desertification of the Sahel, redistributing land from private landowners, suspending rural poll taxes and domestic rents, and establishing a road and railway construction program.
Okay. Last bit. Go ahead.
On the local level, Sankara called on every village to build a medical dispensary and have pharmacies built in 5,384 out of 7,500 villages. From 1982 to 1984, the infant mortality rate dropped from 208 per thousand births to 145.
Mm.
School attendance under Sankaras increased from 6% to 22%. Moreover, he outlawed female genital mutilation, forced marriages, and polygamy. He appointed women to high governmental positions and encouraged them to work outside the home and stay in school, even if pregnant.
Okay. Now, we're not done with him. We're not done with him. Okay. We are not done with him. Okay. Again, write this video down because it won't be in the recorded version. Africa's Chi Guerra, the life of Thomas Sankara. Okay.
Right here where it says remembering.
The top here, the top, because this is the title,
Okay, hold on.
so that you can find this video on YouTube. Okay. Write this down. Okay. And then I'm gonna go ahead and press play.
They call him Africa's treasure. His name was Captain.
Write this down. Write this down. Bishop Nathaniel Israel. Nathaniel. Nathaniel Israel. Okay. So once again, these videos will most likely not be published in the YouTube. Here's another individual that shows himself diligent about the Lord's business. Okay. Seest thou a man diligent in his business? He shall stand before kings. He shall not stand before mean men. Okay. You can write this down, that title right there, Elders and Deacons Interview, excerpts from disc 1 and 2. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and press play. I will probably keep like the first couple of seconds in the YouTube. That way you can, if you didn't get to write down the titles, that'll be available. But the video itself will most likely, I will definitely delete it.
All right, shalom, sir. Most high Christ bless. We made it. We made it. Passover 2013. We're here. All praise to the Most High. All praise to the Most High. All right, well, this segment we're going to be doing is basically asking some questions pertaining to things that a lot of people want to know about you. There's a lot of rumors and speculations concerning who you are, what you're about, things you did in the past, whatever the case may be. What we're going to do right here, we're going to clear all that badness up. We're going to get into these questions, and those these notifications comes out. All right, first question we got. What brought you into the truth, and what was it that made you consider that you're an Israelite?
Well, I was sick. Definitely, I saw a lot of problems that are lacking in truth, brothers and sisters were going through, including myself. I searched out a lot of religions from Christianity. I even, for a brief moment, thought about following behind the Nation of Islam.
Watch all of these 3 videos I've presented so far. But for sake of time, I'm attempting to be brief. Write this down. Archibald Carey Jr. I'm going to give you the guy. I'm going to give it to you. Okay. Here's the spelling. Archibald Carey Jr.
Where's spelling?
Okay. All right. Read for me, brother.
Archibald James Carey Jr. was an American lawyer, judge, politician, diplomat, and a clergyman for the South Side of Chicago. He was elected a city alderman and served for 8 years under the patronage of the politician William L. Dawson.
Mm-hmm.
He served for several years as a pastor in the African Methodist Episcopal Church, when he became known as a civil rights activist. In 1957, he was appointed by President Dwight Eisenhower as chair of his committee on government employment policy, which worked to reduce racial discrimination.
Okay.
Appointed to the Circuit Court of Cook County, Illinois in 1966, Judge Carey became a major figure in Chicago's political life, serving until 1979.
Mm-hmm.
He won numerous awards for his
Oratorical
skills and
his
contributions.
ability to speak. Okay. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, they were orators. So oratorical is the ability to give public speeches. Read.
And contributions to civic improvements.
Okay. Continue.
Archibald Carey Jr. was born on February 29, 1908 in Chicago, Illinois. The youngest of 5 children born to the Reverend Archibald J. Carey, a minister of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, and his wife, Elizabeth H. Carey. Carey Jr. was a native of Chicago. He attended Wendell Phillips High School. He received a Bachelor of Science degree from Lewis Institute, now Illinois Institute of Technology, in 1928, as well as a degree from Northwestern University in 1932, and a Bachelor of Laws degree from Chicago Kent College of Law in Chicago in 1935. After being accepted to the bar, Carey set up a practice in Chicago. He became politically active and allied with William L. Dawson, a leading African-American politician on the city's south side. Carey was twice elected to serve as an alderman from Chicago's 3rd Ward, serving from 1947 to 1955. During this time, he was chosen to give a speech to the 1952 Republican National Convention, which met that year in Chicago, and called for equal rights for all minorities.
Okay. So that's we see what he was fighting for. Okay. Read.
The following year, Carey was appointed as an alternate delegate from the United States to the United Nations, serving from 1953 to 1956. From 1955 to 1961, he served on the President's Committee on Government Employment Policy. On August 3rd, 1957, he was appointed by President Dwight D. Eisenhower as chair of the committee, succeeding Maxwell Abel, who died. Carey was the first African-American to hold this position, already a confidant of Martin Luther King Jr. and active in the national civil rights movement. Carey worked to end employment discrimination in the government against Blacks.
That's what this man worked. He said he worked to end employment discrimination. Okay, so we're reading his lifelong pursuit, his diligence, and the work he was doing on behalf of Jacob. Read.
Carey was appointed as a county circuit court judge in Chicago in 1966. He served until 1978 when he was forced by law to retire from the bench at 70 years of age. Because of the court's large caseload, he was reappointed to serve another year.
Okay. Write this down. Write down Claudette Cloven. No. I'm sorry. Ooh. Yeah, you know what? Since I already said it, let me just mix them around. Claudette Cloven. I'm going to give you a spelling right now. My apologies. Don't be mad at me. Here we go. Make sure I tell myself to move those around. Claudette Cloven. Okay.
Claudette Cloven is an American pioneer of the 19th.
Pause 1 second. So we are looking at, because I told you all way early, about an hour ago now, write down the word diligent. We read Proverbs 22:29. Seest thou a man diligent in his business? He shall stand before kings. He shall not stand before mean men. We are seeing individuals diligent in their work on our behalf. Okay, go ahead.
Claudette Colvin is an American pioneer of the 1950s civil rights movement and retired nurse aide. On March 2nd, 1955, she was arrested at the age of 15 in Montgomery, Alabama, for refusing to give up her seat to a white woman on a crowded, segregated bus. This occurred 9 months before the more widely known incident in which Rosa Parks, secretary of the local chapter of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, helped spark the 1955 Montgomery bus boycott.
Go ahead.
Colvin was one of 5 plaintiffs in the field on the first case filed by civil rights attorney Fred Gray on February 1st, 1955, as Broughton versus Gale, to challenge bus segregation in the city. In the United States District Court, she testified before the 3-judge panel that heard the case. On 1956, the judges determined that the state and local laws requiring bus segregation in Alabama were unconstitutional. The case went to the United States Supreme Court on appeal by the state, and it upheld the district court's ruling on November 13th, 1956. 1 month later, the Supreme Court affirmed the order to Montgomery and the state of Alabama to end bus segregation. The Montgomery bus boycott was then called off after a few months.
Last thing.
For many years, Montgomery's Black leaders did not publicize Colvin's pioneering effort. Colvin was said, young people think Rosa Parks just sat down on the bus and ended segregation, but that wasn't the case at all. Colvin's case was dropped by civil rights campaigners because Colvin was unmarried and pregnant during the proceedings. It is now widely accepted that Colvin was not accredited by civil rights campaigners at the time due to her circumstances. Rosa Parks stated, if the white press got a hold of that information, they would have had a field day. They call her a bad girl, and her case wouldn't have had a chance.
So to us, this is why we have to fight really hard to keep our nose clean, to do everything as the Bible instructs us to do. And Peter's, what we read earlier, it said, and be blameless. So we want to make sure that we are blameless. Okay? Write this down. Write down John Anthony Copeland Jr. John Anthony Copeland Jr. Here it comes. Go ahead.
John Anthony Copeland Jr. was born in Raleigh, Raleigh, North Carolina, one of the 8 children born to John Copeland Sr. and his wife Delilah Evans. Free mulattoes who married in Riley in 1931.
In 1831.
1831.
Uh-huh.
Delilah was born free, while John was
Manumitted.
in the
Meaning
will of
he obtained freedom. He obtained freedom. Go ahead.
in the will of his master. In 1843, the family moved north to the Abolitionist Center of Oberlin, Ohio, where he later attended Oberlin's College Preparatory High School Division. He was a highly visible leader in the successful Oberlin Wellington Rescue of 1858, for which he was indicted, but not tried.
Indicted.
Okay, but not tried. Copeland joined John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry. Other than Brown himself, he was the only member of John Brown's raiders that was at all well known. He was captured, and a marshal from Ohio came to Charlestown to serve him with the indictment. He was indicted a second time for murder and conspiracy to incite slaves to rebellion. He was found guilty and was hanged on December 16, 1859.
So he gave his life. Pursuing the liberation of his people. He gave his life pursuing the liberation of his people. He lost his life for that. Okay. Go ahead.
There were 1,600 spectators. His family tried but failed to recover his body, which was taken by medical students for dissection and the bones discarded.
He had no, he was taken, they dissected his body, examined, how does this work? How does that work? How does this work? And then discarded the remains. The family was not able to have a proper funeral service for him. Okay. Read the caption on the photograph.
John A. Copeland in 1859, drawing from a newspaper likely made during his trial.
So this is what he looked like. Okay. Write this down. Alberta Odell Jones. Alberta Odell Jones. And all these individuals should, my intent in bringing forth these individuals is to encourage us, for us to feel empowered. Okay. Go ahead.
Alberta Odell Jones was an African-American attorney and civil rights icon. She was one of the first African-American women to pass the Kentucky bar and the first woman appointed city attorney in Jefferson County. She was murdered by an unknown person.
She was murdered. Okay. Go ahead.
Jones graduated from Louisville Central High School and went to Louisville Municipal College. It later merged with the University of Louisville during desegregation. Jones graduated third in her class. She attended the University of Louisville Law School for 1 year, transferring to Howard University School of Law for her degree, graduating fourth in her class. After graduating, she began practicing law and took on a prominent client early in her career, a young boxer who later changed his name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali, introducing him to trainer Archie Moore of California. She was appointed in February 1965 to Louisville Domestic Relations Court, where she was a prosecutor.
So that's what she prosecuted, domestic relations those particular cases. So family matters. Okay. She was an activist. Read that part.
Jones was active in the civil rights movement, taking part in protest marches in Louisville and attending the March on Washington in August 1963. Upon returning from Washington, she formed the Independent Voters Association of Louisville and was very involved with the Louisville chapter of the Urban League. She rented voting machines and taught African Americans how to use the machines to vote. She was also active in the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Another of her causes was a fundraising effort to pay the medical bills of a young man, James Bulkey Welch, who lost his arm saving his dog trapped under a train, purchasing him prosthetic arms by cautioning a car.
So notice we're going back and forth. There's some men, there's some women. So women, there's a lot of work for you to do. There's a lot of work for you to do in nation building. Brothers, there's a lot of work for you to do in nation building. One more before I move on to the next category. Write this name down. John Berry Meacham.
Okay.
John Berry Meacham. I'm going to give it to you. Okay. Now, us living here in St. Louis, we may be familiar with this individual, Meacham Park. Okay. Go ahead, read for me.
John Berry Meacham was an American pastor, businessman, educator, and founder of the first African Baptist church in St. Louis, the oldest Black church west of the Mississippi River. At a time when it was illegal in the city to teach Blacks to read and write, Meacham operated a school in the church's basement.
He said, I don't care what the law says. This go around, we breaking the law. Why? Because the law that you are saying goes against the law my daddy gave me. My daddy said that we shall be learned. Read.
Meacham also circumvented a Missouri state law banning education for Black people by creating the Floating Freedom School on a steamboat on the Mississippi River. As a young man, he guided 75 enslaved people from Kentucky to their freedom in Indiana, a free state. Once established in Missouri, he and his wife, Mary Meacham, were conductors on the Underground Railroad. They also purchased enslaved people and took them into their home until they earned enough money to repay their purchase price. The Meachams employed the enslaved people that they purchased and emancipated them when they had saved enough to repay their purchase price. In the meantime, they were also educated and learned skills to be self-sufficient once free. John and Mary also helped runaway enslaved people across the Mississippi into Illinois along the Underground Railroad. The Mary Meacham Freedom Crossing in St. Louis, the first site in Missouri to be accepted in the National Park Service.
Okay, and read the last bit.
In 1846, Meacham spoke at the National Negro Convention in Philadelphia and published a pamphlet an address to all of the colored citizens of the United States, which stressed the importance of education and self-respect.
Okay, now you can see we're here where he is buried, Bell Fountain Cemetery. Okay, so this is a local. Here is a local. Okay, all right. Now, write this down. Business. Business. Write that word down. Business. Write that word down. Business. Okay. Go to Proverbs chapter 22, verse 29.
Call it again.
Proverbs chapter 22, verse 29.
This is, I'll write stuff down. Book of Proverbs, chapter 22, verse 29.
Uh-huh.
Seest thou a man diligent in his business?
Seest thou a man diligent in his business? In his business? Okay, go ahead.
He shall stand before kings. He shall not stand before mean men.
He shall not stand before mean men. Go to Genesis chapter 39, verse 11.
Book of Genesis, chapter 39, and verse 11. And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business.
To do his business. Because Joseph was a servant to Potiphar. And Joseph took care of Potiphar's affairs. Read that passage again.
Genesis chapter 39 and verse 11. And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house there within.
Okay, and then it goes off into a tragic situation. He didn't lose his life, but he got thrown in jail because of Potiphar's wife having this lustful desire for Joseph. But Joseph was a man that was about business. He was taking care of business. He was diligent to take care of the affairs that needed to be done. Go to 1 Chronicles chapter 26 and verse 29.
First Chronicles chapter 26. Book of First Chronicles chapter 26 and verse 29. What is that?
Israelites,
Of the Israelites,
Chenaniah,
Chenaniah and his sons were found the outward business over Israel.
of those sons were for the outward business over Israel. The outward business over Israel. Go ahead.
For officers and judges.
For officers and judges. Okay. Outward. Let's get an understanding on that word outward. Go to 2 Chronicles chapter 34, verse 13. Outward business. 2 Chronicles chapter 34 and verse 13.
Book of 2 Chronicles chapter 34 and verse 15. 13. Also, they were over the bearers of burdens and was
Start at verse 11.
2 Chronicles chapter 34 and verse 11.
My apologies. Start at verse 10.
Verse 10.
I'm sorry.
2 Chronicles 34 and 10. And they put it in the hand of the workmen that had the oversight of the house of the Lord. And they gave it to the workmen that wrought in the house of the Lord.
Okay.
To repair and amend the house.
There we go. There it is. Keep going.
Even to the
artificers
and builders gave they it to buy hewn stones,
cut stone,
and timber for couplings, and to floor the house,
and to floor the house which the kings of Judah had destroyed. So the timber that was cut had to be slabs had to be made so that the flooring could be done. Okay, or the stone had to be cut so that flooring could be done. Go ahead.
12. And the men did the work faithfully, and the overseers of them were
Jahath,
Yahath and
Obadiah,
Obadiah, the Levites of the sons of
Meriah,
Meriah and Zechariah, and
Meshullam,
of the sons of the
Kohathites,
Korahites, to set it forward, and other of the Levites, all the clouds skills of
all that could, skill of instruments of music. All that could, skill of instruments of music. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, indeed. Good eyes. Also, they were over the bearers of burdens, and was overseers of all that brought the work in any manner of service. And of the Levites, there were scribes and officers and porters.
Scribes, officers, and porters. Porters were the ones at the door. They were security, if you will. Porter was that was the security. Okay. Continuing, trying to get an understanding on outward business, go to Nehemiah chapter 11, verse 16.
Eleven and 16.
Yes.
Nehemiah chapter 11 and verse 16. And
Shabbatai,
and Jozabad of the chief of the Levites had the oversight of the outward business of the house of God.
Okay, so which what we just kind of read back in Chronicles. Okay, so here's another passage dealing with those individuals. And if you go up to verse 14, up to verse 14.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll write it down. Nehemiah 11 and 14. And their brethren, mighty men of valor, and 128, and their overseers was Zabadiah. Did I say that right?
Mhm.
The sons of one of the great men.
Okay, so you had individuals, they were going to be the warriors. You had individuals who were going to be, they were going to maintain the condition of the house of the Lord. Okay, so outward business of over Israel. Go to First Chronicles chapter 23, verse 4. Actually, go to Second Chronicles. Let me skip all that. I do want that, man. I do want it.
First Chronicles
First Chronicles
chapter
23, verse 4.
First Chronicles chapter 23 and verse 4. Of which 24,000 were to set forward the work of the house of the Lord, and 6,000 were officers and judges.
This is how many? This is the work. This is the business of our nation. And there were 24,000 set forward the work for the house of the Lord. 6,000 were officers and judges. Go to Second Chronicles chapter 19, verse 8.
Second Chronicles chapter 19 and verse 8. Moreover, in Jerusalem did Jehoshaphat set of the Levites and of the priests and the chiefs of the fathers of Israel for the judgment of the Lord, and for covered
Controversies.
controversies, which they returned to Jerusalem.
When they return to Jerusalem. Okay. So that's what these judges and these officers, that's their business. To judge the people. That's their business. To judge the people. When controversies come up, we need someone to judge the matter. Okay. Go to, keep reading.
What did I stop off?
Verse 9.
Verse 9. 2 Chronicles chapter 19, verse 9. And he charged them, saying, thus shall ye do in the fear of the Lord, faithfully and with a perfect heart.
Keep reading.
And what cause soever shall come to you of your brethren that dwell in their cities, between blood and blood, between law and commandment, statutes and judgments, ye shall even warn them that they trespass not against the law. And so wrath come upon you and upon your brethren. This do, and ye shall not trespass.
Go ahead.
And behold,
Amariah,
the chief priest, is over you in all matters of the law. And
Zebediah,
the son of Ishmael, the ruler of the house of Judah, for all the king's matters. Also the Levites shall be officers before you. Deal courageously, and the Lord shall be with the good.
okay, remember we read in Sirach chapter 38 earlier, and it said that these individuals will not be sought after in the congregation, right? But what we're reading right here in Chronicles, these are the ones that will be sought after in the congregation. These men that are going to judge these matters, these are the ones that will be sought after. What's the law? What's the law? Like today, we seek after lawyers and counselors when we are dealing with matters. Man, what's going to happen? Are they going to throw me in jail? What's going to happen? We're seeking after learned men of the law. Okay, and so we want learned men of the law for our nation, meaning they know our laws. Okay. Go to 2 Chronicles chapter 17. We're going to read verses 1 through 13. And all of this is dealing with business, diligent in business. This is the business at hand.
2 Chronicles 17 and 1
through 13.
So now you got it.
Okay. I'm gonna try. This is the book of 2 Chronicles, chapter 17 and verse 1. And Jehoshaphat, his son, reigned in his stead and strengthened himself against Israel. And he placed forces in all the fenced cities of Judah and set garrisons in the land of Judah and in the cities of Ephraim, which Asa, his father, had taken. And the Lord was with Jehoshaphat, because he walked in the first ways of his father David, and sought not unto Balaam, but sought to the Lord God of his father, and walked in his commandments, and not after the doings of Israel.
So the first part, which we even read earlier, the first part of our business is knowing the laws, knowing the rules, knowing how to conduct yourself. And when we do that, then things go favorably on our behalf. Read.
Therefore, the Lord established the kingdom in his hand, and all Judah brought to Jehoshaphat presents, and he had riches and honor and abundance.
Because he walked in the ways of the Most High God. That's the key ingredient. Without that ingredient, that soup is not the real deal. That chili ain't hitting. It just without that ingredient. And for us, the ingredient is the keeping of the laws and the faith of Christ. If you're missing those two ingredients, it will not happen.
Right.
You got faith, but no laws. You got laws, no faith. Without those two ingredients, it ain't happening. Read.
Verse 6. And his heart was lifted up in the ways of the Lord. Moreover, he took away the high places and groves out of Judah. Also in the 3rd year of his reign, he sent his princes, even to Ben-Hel, and to Obadiah, and to Zechariah, and to
Nathaniel.
And to Micaiah, to teach the cities of Judah.
To teach the cities of Judah. To teach the cities of Judah. Isn't that what Thomas Sankara did?
Right.
Read.
And with them he sent Levites, even Shemaiah and Nathaniah and Zebediah and Ashiel and
Shemiramoth.
Shemiramoth and Jonathan and Adonijah and Tobijah and Adonijah Levites, and with them Elishama and Elishama and Jehoram, priests, and they taught in Judah and had the book of the law of the Lord with them, and went about throughout all the cities of Judah.
Look what they were teaching. The number one subject was the law. The book of the law of the Lord. The book of the law of the Lord. That was the number one subject. That was the number one subject. Read on.
And taught the people. Verse 10. And the fear of the Lord fell upon all kingdoms of the lands that were round about Judah, so that they made no war against Jehoshaphat.
When you are doing the business of the Lord causes your enemies to be at peace with you.
That's right.
Read.
Verse 11. Also some of the Philistines brought Jehoshaphat presents and tributes, silver.
There's that word tribute. There's that word tribute, but it is not us paying tribute. It was the other nations paying tribute. Read.
And the Arabians brought him flocks, 7,700 rams, and 7,700 goats. And Jehoshaphat waxed great exceedingly, and he built in Judah castles and cities of store.
Okay, verse 13.
And he had much business in the cities of Judah.
And he had much business in the cities of Judah. And he had much business in the cities of Judah, King Jehoshaphat. Read.
And the men of war, mighty men of valor, were in Jerusalem.
There you go. They kept the peace when nobody coming to mess with us. They feared us. Okay. Go to Luke chapter 2, verse 49.
The book of Luke, chapter 2, in verse 49. And he said unto them, how is it that ye sought me? Wist ye not that I must be about my Father's business?
Don't you understand that I must be about my Father's business? Don't you know this? So I have to ask us, are we about our Father's business? Are we being about our Father's business? Okay. Go to Luke chapter 19, verse 47.
The book of Luke, chapter 19, and verse 47.
Mhm. This is the business that Christ was about when he was being about his Father's business. Read.
And he taught daily in the temple.
How did he do? What did he do?
And he taught daily in the temple.
He taught daily in the temple. Read.
But the chief priests and the scribes and the chief of the people sought to destroy him.
Okay, that's it. He taught daily, nonetheless, in the temple. Go to Haggai, chapter 2, verse 7 and 9. How was Christ about his Father's business? He said, don't you know that I am about my Father's business?
This is the book of Haggai, chapter 2, and verse 7. And I will shake all nations, and the desire of all nations shall come. And I will fill this house with glory, said the Lord of hosts.
That's what Christ was. That was his mission, to fill the house with glory. Read.
The silver is mine, and the gold is mine, said the Lord of hosts.
All this is mine. We're going to get it back. Read.
The glory of this latter house, shall be greater than the former, said the Lord of hosts.
And that's what Christ was about. The glory of this latter house shall be greater than the former house. We lost the former house. The latter house is going to be greater. Read. Read that again. Read that again.
Verse 9. The glory of this latter house shall be greater than of the former, said the Lord of hosts.
Okay.
And in this place will I give peace, said the Lord of hosts.
Okay. We seek peace. We seek peace. And this is the business that Christ was about when he said, don't you know that I'm about my Father's business? Go to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 11. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 11.
The book of 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 11.
Because we have to be about business. Seest thou a man diligent in his business? We must be about business.
This is the book of 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 11. And that ye study to be quiet and to do your own business.
This is how we must be. We must study to be quiet and to do our own business. This is how we must conduct ourselves. Study to be quiet and to do our own business. Read.
And to work with your own hand. As we command you.
As we command you. We should not be begging people. We should not be beggars. We should be a nation who is provided for by our Lord through the strength that he gives us, through the wisdom that he gives us. We should be helping. We should be putting our brick in to grow, to build this nation, the nation of Israel. Okay? So let's look at some examples. Let's look at some examples. So you can write this down. Business leaders. Business leaders. Okay, let's look at the first one. David Stewart. David Stewart.
Let's write it down.
Yep. Write that down. David Stewart. This article Fox News, 5 black business leaders you need to know.
He's not black.
Okay.
Oh.
And here he is, David Stewart and his wife. Okay. David Stewart. All right. And if I can get you to read for me, please.
David Stewart is the chairman of Worldwide Technology. Stewart's father was a mechanic and the family faced poverty. Thank you. And discrimination in the then segregated South in their home of Clinton, Missouri.
Clinton, Missouri.
That's it. After graduating high school, Stewart went on to earn his bachelor's degree in business from Central Missouri State University in 1973. Stewart began his professional career when he took a job at Wagner Electric as production manager. He went on to work at Missouri Pacific Railroad Company and then Federal Express, where he was named Salesman of the Year in 1981.
Continue.
Stewart founded WWT in 1990. The company and IT provider based in Maryland Heights, Missouri, is the largest African-American owned business in the United States.
So he founded this company called Worldwide Technologies, WWT, Worldwide Technologies. He founded this company in 1990. Okay. This company is the largest African-American owned business in the United States. Okay, read.
Stewart founded WWT in 1990.
Right here, WWT.
WWT lists 70% of Fortune 100 companies as customers, including Verizon, city, and federal government. Recent figures place WWT's annual revenue at $12 million.
12 billion.
Yeah.
12 billion. Okay. All right. Now, I'm not done with David Stewart. I'm not done. Again, portion of what I share. You want to write this down because this will be the portion that will get deleted. Okay, so you can Fox 2, 9 a.m. Black History, Dave Stewart, Part 1. Okay, you can write that down. I'll go ahead and press play. I'll keep, like I said before, I'll keep the first few seconds so that you can capture the title, but the video itself, I'm going to delete.
We're going to go ahead and continue to celebrate Black History Month by hanging out with a living legend.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. Okay. We are not done. Write this name down. Write this name down. Ursula M. Burns. I'm going to put it up on the board. Ursula M. Burns. Right here. There you go. Ursula M. Burns. Okay. Okay. All right. Brother, read for me, please.
Ursula M. Burns was raised by a single mother in NYC, Baruch Houses, a public housing development. After attending high school, Barnes earned a Bachelor of Science degree in mechanical engineering from Brooklyn uh, Polytechnic Institute in 1980. During this time, she took a summer internship at Xerox,
Xerox.
joining them full time after earning a master's in mechanical engineering from Columbia University in 1981.
Okay.
The 1980s saw Burns undertake several roles at the printing and documents product services company and around product development and planning. By 1990, Burns was offered a role as executive assistant to Wayland Hicks, then a senior exclusive executive at Xerox. In 1991, she took a role as executive assistant to then chairman and chief executive Paul Allaire. Burns saw out the end of the decade in 1999 as vice president of global manufacturing. True to her career pattern, Burns continued in a professional upward trajectory, becoming senior vice president of corporate strategic services in 2000. By 2009, Burns made CEO of Xerox, making her the first African American woman to be named CEO of a major American corporation. Burns ended her tenure at Xerox in 2017, leaving her position as chairperson. Later that year, Burns was elected chairman of Vion, a multinational telecommunications services company. After a sudden departure of the CEO in 2018, Burns was made executive chairman pending a selection process and later formally appointed as CEO.
All right. We're not done with her. We're not done with Miss Ursula. Mrs. Okay. So here we go.
Can you hear us now? Is this better? Okay, so it really is a privilege and an honor to have you here. And I think some of the students chose me to do this.
Generically men and women, good positions, and just this ability that I had to work, this ability to work really hard and stay really focused.
Well, they actually say that luck favors the prepared. And
That's what-
so
yeah,
in a
that's
lot
what
of
I'm
ways, you were prepared, lucky, and really smart to be able to make it this far in your group.
I like how she says, can't come in through the door thinking that, this is just given. You gotta come through the door willing to when they say go here, you ain't asking no questions. You're just going there. When they say do this, you're not asking questions. You're just doing this. And so that has to be the mindset, not all this, what if, okay? Write this down. Janice Bryant Howrod. We're gonna get the spelling on it. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna give you the spelling.
You made it sound like you Muslim.
Okay. And this is coming from this particular article from Investopedia, Legendary Black Entrepreneurs. And here she is. Here's her name. Okay. Okay. And are you able to read?
Yeah.
You sure? I need energy. I need life.
Oof. I need some caffeine for that.
Read from it.
Although Janice Bryant, how you say her last name?
Harrod.
Yes. Although Janice Bryant Harrod isn't well known in the general public, she is one of the most successful business people of any race or gender in America today. Her firm and her firm, the Act One Group, was the first Black female-led company to bring in more than $1 billion in annual revenue. Act One is primarily an employment agency and consultancy based in Los Angeles. It has grown to dominate one of the most lucrative markets, in the United States. And from very humble beginnings, as Harrod herself tells the story, she moved to LA in 1976 with just $900 and marketed her company through word of mouth for much of the following decade.
Okay. We're not done with her. Let's get a clip of her.
Keep it real, man.
Special guest.
Write this down. Carlos Slim. Carlos Slim. Carlos Slim. And this is coming from the Latin way. And we're reading number 1.
All right. I can see it. Carlos Slim is a Mexican businessman. Carlos Slim is a Mexican businessman famous for his great fortune. Some years ago, he was listed as the richest man in the world by Forbes magazine. In fact, he continues to occupy the top position among the richest men in the world. Slim has, in fact, been a good businessman since his youth. Even as a young man, he invested large amounts of money in business purchases, real estate sales, etc. Over the years, he continued to increase his fortune and created new businesses. For example, in 1980, he created the Carso Group, one of the most famous and important
conglomerates.
Yes, in all of Latin America. The Carson Group continued to acquire more and more companies in the following years. In 1982, while Mexico was going through a historical crisis, Slim and his group continued to invest large sums of money in the country. As a result of all this, Slim now owns and invests in multi-million-dollar companies such as Telmex, America Mobile, hotel chain Calinda, French Pastry El Globo, the New York Times, and etc.
Okay. All right. We're not done with Carlos. video. Okay. All right. Moving on. Now let's move on to the next category. Kings or honorable. Kings / honorable. Kings / honorable. Okay. Let's go to Proverbs 22 and 29 one more time.
Proverbs 2 and 29.
Proverbs chapter 22, verse 29.
Gotcha. Book of Proverbs, chapter 22, and verse 29. Seest thou a man diligent in his business, he shall stand before kings.
He shall stand before kings. Read.
He shall not stand before mean men.
Okay, kings or honorable. Kings or honorable men. Okay. Go to Sirach, chapter 10, verse 20. Sirach, chapter 10, verse 20.
This is the book of Sirach or Ecclesiastes, chapter 10 and verse 20. Among brethren, he that is chief is honorable.
He that is chief, he is at the head, he who is most learned. Okay, read.
So are they that fear the Lord.
Read it again from the beginning.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 10 and verse 20. Among brethren, he that is chief is honorable. So are they that fear the Lord in his eyes.
So are they that fear the Lord. You show yourself as a man or woman that fear the Lord, you are to be honored. I referenced Proverbs 31 earlier. It says near the end of that chapter that she that feareth the Lord is to be praised. Okay, so this goes for both men and women, what we're talking about here. Okay, go to 1 Chronicles chapter 4, verse 9 and 10. First Chronicles, chapter 4, verse 9 and 10.
It's the book of First Chronicles. Chapter 4. It's the book of First Chronicles, chapter 4 and verse 9. And Jabez was more honorable than his brethren, and his mother called his name Jabez, saying, because I bear him with sorrow.
Okay, read.
And Jabez called on the God of Israel, saying, oh, that thou wouldest bless me indeed, and enlarge my coast, and that thine hand might be with me, and that thou wouldest keep me from evil, that it may not grieve me. And God granted him that which he requested.
Because he was honorable, because he was righteous. This was his prayer, and the Lord heard his prayer and granted him his prayer. Because he was righteous, he asked. He says, enlarge my coast. And the Lord heard his prayer and blessed his prayer. The man was honorable. The man was righteous before the Lord. Okay. Go to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 4, verse 8. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 4, verse 8. Read it, please.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 4 and verse 8. For honorable age is not that which standeth in length of time.
It's not because you are 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old that you are considered an honorable person. No. Read it again.
For honorable age is not that which standeth in the length of time, nor that is measured by number of years.
Okay. You've been studying this thing for X number of years. That's not what makes you honorable. Read.
But wisdom is the great hair unto men, and unspotted life is old age.
There you go. Unspotted life. Be blameless. Be blameless. Okay. Go to Sirach, chapter 10, verse 19.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 10, and verse 19. They that fear the Lord are a sure seed, and they that love him an honorable plant. They that regard not the law are a dishonorable seed. They that transgress the commandments are a deceivable seed.
Okay, so you love the Lord, you should be an honorable plant. You show that you don't love the Lord, you shall be a corrupted plant. No one wants to deal with you. No one wants to eat your fruit. Okay, go to Sirach, chapter 38, verse 1 through 3.
The book of Sirach, chapter 38, in verse 1. Honor a physician with the honor due unto him for the use which he may have of him.
For the uses which ye may have of him. Honor the physician. Don't shame him. Don't be all high-minded. Honor him. Read.
For the use which you may have of him, for the Lord had created him.
Okay.
For of the Most High cometh healing, and he shall receive honor of the king.
He shall receive honor of the king. Read.
Verse 3. The skill of the physician shall lift up his head, and in the sight of great men he shall be in admiration.
There you go. So here we're talking about our doctors, nurses, okay, our healers. Examples. First example, Dr. Scott Whitaker. Dr. Scott Whitaker. Dr. Scott Whitaker. I'll give you the spelling. Okay. Here's the spelling of his name right there. Dr. Scott Whitaker. Read that for me, please.
Dr. Scott Whitaker, a Black doctor who specialized in alternative health with over 15 years experience in herbology, iridology,
Homeopathy.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't want to say.
Homeopathy.
Yeah, you go. Homeopathy, natural healing, and detoxifying.
And detoxification. Okay. He has the book. Read this little blurb about him. Large, where is it at? Here it is.
Okay, I see it. Dr. Scott Whitaker, founder and owner of Holistic Health Institute Incorporation. Dr. Whitaker is also the Black doctor who authored the popular book entitled Medicines.
Medicines, and he spells medicines S-I-N. Okay. Okay. He spells medicines with S-I-N. Okay. Now let's see this brother. Let's listen to him a bit. Okay. Bear with me. Now, this is a older video. This video was published 10 years ago, and what caught my interest here is this little blurb. Please read that.
Dr. Scott Whitaker received his undergraduate degree from the University of California, Berkeley, in civil engineering, his master's of business administration from the Keller Graduate School of Management in St. Louis, Missouri, and his doctorate of naturopathy.
Thank
you. Naturopathy from the International School of Naturopathy in Los Altos, California. He is also a certified natural health professional and iridologist.
Okay, here we go. Let's watch. I'm gonna show you one more clip of this guy. Okay.
Yes, sir. First, let me state my position. I bear witness that there is nothing worthy of worship except the Creator. I bear witness that nothing deserves praise. No president, no senator, no governor, no fraternity, sorority, no athlete or entertainer. And I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. So I would hope as we go forward in this time of age, with all this madness we see it every day, particularly on the corporate controlled media outlets, and they're pushing certain agendas. And of course, at the same time they're pushing their agendas, they're also pushing to us genetic foods. And I can recall when medicine first came out, I could probably count the amount of genetic foods on one hand that were on the market at that time. And that was in 2005. Yeah. So 2019 now, just around the corner, I can't count how many genetic foods now. You need 2 hands and 2 feet because there's so many of them now. And some of the big ones that's coming next year is one called an Arctic apple. Okay, this is an apple that you're gonna be able to, you can cut it, slice it, dice it, and it'll never turn brown. It'll remain the same color it was when you cut it. Okay, they got a genetic salmon that's coming on the market now that grows from a little tadpole to 3 feet within 10 days. Okay, and most of your Atlantic salmon, sea salmon, is Atlantic salmon. That's all genetic. Okay. So be careful when you eat fish, especially wild caught fish, particularly ocean fish with scales. And the big ones to avoid right now is tilapia. Okay, it's everywhere. Okay, and you don't even know where that came from. I ask people all the time, give me the origin. What origin of water and tilapia come from? No one can tell you. This is all genetically made. Okay, so the big three killers right now in our midst in our communities, of course, cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. I would say the big three. Okay, with kidney disease coming very quickly. That's why you see all these DaVita centers everywhere. What I call the nigga machine. Okay, because that's what that 90% of the people on is us. Okay, and so with the top three diseases that we've seen, cancer, diabetes, and heart disease, all relate to three mineral deficiencies. Okay, for heart disease, the top mineral that's missing in the body is magnesium. Okay, mostly all of us in here are magnesium deficient. Okay, because they don't put it in the foods anymore. Anything that's processed in a package, white flour, anything that's you see that's maybe frozen or bread products that have been broken down into refined products contain no magnesium at all. Okay, so your body is screaming for it, hollering for the magnesium, and the heart is suffering at the same time. Okay, you find anybody who's had a heart attack, when they do the autopsies, they find that there was no magnesium in the system. Magnesium has over 300 functions in the body. And one of the main ones is making sure that that heart keeps beating, keeps giving rhythmic beats. And anytime you see someone who may have heart disease where they have palpitations, low heart rate, high heart rate, all unbalanced, the magnesium deficiency. So magnesium, okay? We'll get to the supplements and stuff about that. Cancer. Throughout the soils of America, all the soils are depleted of selenium. Okay, and selenium is a mineral that is antiviral, antifungal, and kills cancer cells on contact. Okay, and they've taken all of that out of the food chain. That's why they give you seedless fruits. Okay, because the fruits contain, and the seeds of the fruit contain selenium. Okay, and also the cofactor B17. Okay, but the selenium is the key. Okay, well, we come from the dirt. The dirt is made from minerals. And that's what our bodies need is minerals. Vitamins don't even matter if you don't have minerals in your system. They don't even work. Okay, so we got cancer, heart disease, and now diabetes, number 3. All refined products, all sugar products, all deplete the body of the main mineral called chromium. Okay, you find anybody who's diabetic, I don't care if it's type 1 or type 2, I guarantee you they are chromium deficient. Okay. What chromium does, it goes into the system, and then the pancreas releases insulin when you eat something sweet, and the chromium takes the insulin and puts it in the cell. That lowers the blood sugar levels. That's what happens naturally. When there's no chromium present, insulin goes out. It goes out into the body. It can't get into the cell. That's when blood sugar goes up. And then they call it insulin resistance. You see people who eat a lot of carbs, a lot of vegans, vegetarians, eating a lot of carbohydrates. They end up swelling, getting big. That's insulin resistance. They can no longer intake insulin from the body anymore because they have no more chromium in the system. So we just add chromium, magnesium, and selenium to our diets. We eliminate the top 3 diseases in our communities.
Run it back.
Okay. All right. Magnesium, selenium, and chromium. Okay. I want to keep it moving. And write this name down. Dr. Patricia Bath. Dr. Patricia Bath. Okay. Is this it? Yep, that's it. I'm getting there. I'm pulling it up. B-A-T-H. Here she is. Just take your time to read.
Dr. Patricia Bath, first Black female physician to earn a medical invention patent, a pioneer in the ophthalmology specialty. Bath is, sorry, let me read that again. A pioneer in the ophthalmology specialty. Bath is an inventor and patent holder of the laser phaco, a device that
Bath is an inventor and patent holder of the laser phaco, a device and technique used in cataract surgery. Prior to her 1986 invention, Bath set another first. In 1974, she became the first female ophthalmologist to make the faculty of the University of California at Los Angeles School of Medicine Jules Stein Eye Institute. Later, in 1983, Bath would make history again by becoming the first woman to chair an ophthalmology residency program in the United States, in the US. Okay, so here we go. Let's see a short video on her. Hope you all are enjoying this.
is good.
Okay.
Became the first African American female doctor to receive a medical patent for her invention, the laser phaco probe, in Black History Moment.
Okay. All right. So we'll quickly look at 5 revolutionary African-American leaders and innovators in STEAM, S-T-E-M, STEAM. I'm gonna get it up there. I'm gonna get the article up there. I'm gonna help us out. Okay. 5 revolutionary African-American leaders and inventors in STEAM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And the acronym has changed to STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics. Arts including, Picasso as well as Beethoven. Okay. That would also, include theater and things like that. All right. So in honor of Black History Month, we want to celebrate some of the most influential and visionary African-American men and women in STEAM history. These remarkable African-American scientists, engineers, physicians, mathematicians, and inventors have dedicated their lives to advancements in STEAM fields. By breaking racial barriers, battling injustice, and paving the way for Black opportunities and growth, these individuals serve as inspiration for the next generation of innovators and leaders and for the future of STEAM in America. Okay, Daniel Hale Williams. He is celebrated for his trailblazing efforts in the medical community as the first physician to successfully perform open heart surgery in the United States. At the time of Williams' introduction to the medical community, African Americans were banned from care, and Black doctors were refused staff positions at established hospitals. Williams firmly believed that all U.S. citizens should have access to modern health care and became the founder of the country's first interracial hospital, Providence Hospital and Training School for Nurses. In 1893, Williams was documented as the first surgeon to successfully perform open heart surgery while repairing a stab wound. He later became chief surgeon of the Freedmen's Hospital, a hospital which provided health care to former slaves. During his tenure at the Freedmen's Hospital, Williams worked tirelessly to improve hospital conditions, modernize their care, and provide care and training opportunities for Black professionals. Daniel Hale Williams. George Washington Carver. Many of us are already familiar with George Washington Carver. I'm going to go past him. You can pull this article up and read about him. Katherine Johnson. Many of us are familiar with her from the recent movie that came out about 2-3 years ago. I'm going to go past her. Mary Daly. She began pursuing her lifelong interest in chemistry right out of high school and graduated in the top 2.15% of her class from Queens College in 1942. Wartime labor shortages allowed Daly to receive fellowships to achieve her master's from New York University and eventually earn her PhD from Columbia University. Daly is heralded as the first African-American woman to earn a PhD in chemistry. Her influential postdoctoral research at the Rockefeller Institute of Medicine focused on histones and how proteins are constructed in the body. Later, working alongside Dr. Quentin Deming, Daly conducted groundbreaking work relating high cholesterol and heart attacks, which allowed a new area of study regarding foods and diet affecting our health. Throughout her rich career, Daly championed efforts to get students of color enrolled in medical schools and graduate science programs. We're familiar with this lady, most of us probably, Mae Jemison. I believe this was the lady whose rocket had blew up. Is that right? No, this is not her. So let's read her real quick. Okay, Mae Jemison. From 1956 to present, with a pre-aeronautics career as a general practitioner, Mae Jemison has more claim to fame than the first African-American woman to travel to space. Jemison entered Stanford University at the age of 16 and graduated with degrees in chemical engineering and African-American studies. She later received her medical degree from Cornell University and worked as a general practitioner for 2 years before joining the Peace Corps in Liberia and Sierra Leone as a medical officer. When she returned to the United States 2 years later, Jemison continued her career and education in California. She became inspired by females in the NASA program like Sally Ride and Guan Bluford, and noted the lack of African-American representation in the space program. She applied to NASA's astronaut training program and became one of the 15 candidates chosen from 2,000 applicants. In 1987, Jemison became the first African-American woman to be admitted into NASA's astronaut training program. 1 year later, she became the first female African-American astronaut as a mission specialist aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour. She has since become the recipient of many awards and accolades as a professor, author, public speaker, founder, and choreographer. Okay, let's continue on. Write this down. Bobby Eugene Wright. Bobby Eugene Wright. Name is on the board. Okay. He was an American clinical psychologist, a scholar, an educator, a political activist, and a humanitarian. He received his Bachelor of Science in Education and his Master's of Science in Counseling from Chicago State University and his PhD in Clinical Psychology from the University of Chicago in 1972. At the point of his untimely death, he was president-elect of the Association of Black Psychologists. During the mid-1960s, he worked as a truant officer in Chicago public school system. He led a successful challenge to racist hiring procedures for Black teachers. His political work has been credited with helping lay foundations that later enabled the election of Chicago's first African-American mayor, Harold Washington, in 1983. Two of his scholarly works have been described as highly influential by the 2013 Conference on African Black Psychology: The Psychopathic Racial Personality, 1974, and Menticide, The Ultimate Threat to Black Survival. Now, this book here, I didn't pull this book up, but this is going into, let me pull it up, because I only read it briefly this morning. I liked what it said. I thought it was very interesting. Let me find it. Bear with me. Don't give up on me. Don't give up on me. Here we go. Here we go. Menticide, the ultimate threat to the Black race. So many of the problems that African people face in the world today are due to the assault on our minds by those who captured us and removed significant numbers of us to the Western Hemisphere. This also included the mind damage caused by the tampering with African lands and culture on the continent of Africa. Most African people in America are aware that our minds were tampered with as a result of our forced capture and enslavement in America. The impact of this process is central to the international component of the reparations movement that we must focus on, and that is the repair of ourselves. At the same time, we demand reparations from the government and private corporations that benefited from our enslavement and still benefit today. Examining and re-examining the contributions of the late Dr. Bobby Wright provides a significant source we can utilize in addressing our internal reparations challenge. Okay. And when I read this initial paragraph opening, immediately I thought about this woman right here. I thought about this woman right here, Dr. Joy DeGruy, her book, The Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Okay, because she talks about the mental warfare that has taken place and continues to take place, and how we as a race of people have not been treated with the mental warfare that we have endured for the last 400 years. Okay, and so the two, that's what interests me with Dr. Bobby Eugene Wright. You wanted to say something, Elder?
No, I was getting ready to say that if it's who I think it is, Joy Angela, yes, that's her. Yeah, I see she's the one blind on me now. But yeah, that's her. She gives them the business.
Yeah.
When she does her lectures, she don't hold back.
Okay. Write this down. Write this down. William Kwamba. William Kwamba. Okay. Name is right there on the board for you. Okay. William Kwamba is a Malawian inventor. He's from Malawi. Engineer and author. He gained fame in his country in 2001 when he built a wind turbine to power multiple electrical appliances in his family's house in Wimby, east of Kasungu, using blue gum trees, bicycle parts, and materials collected in a local scrapyard. Since then, he has built a solar-powered water pump that supplies the first drinking water in his village and 2 other wind turbines, the tallest standing at 12 meters, 39 feet, and is planning 2 more, including one in Lilongwe, the political capital of Malawi. Okay, and so he is, there's a movie about him. This is the wind turbine that he did. Okay, and he is played by the actor Ilufe. Let me see if I can get to the man's name. Let me see if I can get to the man's name. I'm looking for it. Bear with me. Bear with me. Here we go. Right here. Right there. That guy right there. What's his name? Let's get down to the.
You talking about the guy right there?
Yeah, I'm trying to get his name so I can properly say his name.
He didn't play him. He played the father, though.
Yeah. You're right. He played the father. My apologies. You're absolutely correct. Chiwetel Ejiofor. Okay, Chiwetel Ejiofor. Okay. Hold your horses. I want to share one more thing with William. I want to share one more thing with Brother William. Okay, here he is.
Hi, I'm Jess Chen, class of 2012, and I'm here with William Kamkwamba. class of 2014, majoring in environmental studies, modified with engineering, and author of the book, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. Could you tell me a little bit? So what is the book about?
The book is more.
Okay, that's what I wanted to share right there. All right, y'all all right? All praise, all praise. All right, write this down. Mean men. Mean men. M-E-A-N. Mean men. Go to Proverbs chapter 22, verse 9. Remember, I stated at the very top of this that Proverbs 22 and 9 is the epicenter of tonight's class. It's the foundation of tonight's class.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 22 and verse 29. Seest thou a man diligent in his business? He shall stand before kings. He shall not stand before mean men.
He shall not stand before mean men. He shall not stand. Go to Isaiah chapter 2, verse 9.
Call again, please, sir.
Isaiah chapter 2, verse 9.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 2, and verse 9.
Mm-hmm.
And the mean man boweth down, and the great man humbleth himself.
And the mean man boweth down. He has to humble himself. He has to humble himself. Read.
Therefore forgive them not.
He said, don't forgive them. Do not forgive them. Okay. Go to Isaiah chapter 5, verse 15. The mean man. The mean man. Mm-hmm. Big and bad. You're a mean man.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 5, and verse 15.
Read.
And the mean man shall be brought down, and the mighty man shall be humbled.
That's how he gonna bow himself. He's going to be brought down. He's going to be forcibly made to bow down. Sometimes you have to forcibly make an N-word bow down. Okay. Did you read all of that?
You finish it out.
Read it from the top.
And the mean man shall be brought down, and the mighty man shall be humbled.
And the mighty man shall be humbled.
And the eyes of the lofty shall be humbled.
And the eyes of the lofty shall be humbled. Okay. Go to Jeremiah, the mean man. Jeremiah chapter 5, verse 4 and 5. Jeremiah chapter 5, verse 4 and 5. We're almost done. Y'all will give me just about 10 more minutes. We'll be done.
This is Jeremiah chapter 5 and verse 4. Therefore I said, surely these are poor. They are foolish, for they know not the way of the Lord, nor the judgment of their God.
See, notice how the mean man is the man that doesn't know the commandments. The man that doesn't walk according to the law. Man or woman. I'm just saying man, but this is not gender specific. Read.
I will get me unto the great men.
The Lord said, I'm going to give me myself unto him. Read.
And will speak unto them.
For
they have known the way of the Lord. And the judgment of their God. But these have altogether broken the yoke and burst the bond.
And they burst the bond. They break the union. I'm going to get to him. I'm going to make him bow down. I'm going to make her bow down. Okay, the mean man. Go to Revelation chapter 6, verse 15 through 17. The mean man.
The book of Revelations, chapter 6, in verse 15. And the kings of the earth and the great men, And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man.
What do they do?
Hid themselves in the den.
They hid themselves. Because destruction coming their way. All these great leaders, what they do? Hide themselves. Because destruction is coming their way. They will hide themselves in the cliff of the rock, thinking they're going to get out of the judgment that's coming their way. Read.
Hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains.
Read.
And said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne.
Hide us from that black king. Hide us. Jesus black, oh Lord, help us. Read.
And from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come. And who shall be able to stand?
Who shall be able to stand? Only they who keep the laws and the faith. Those will be the only ones. Okay. Bible says, therefore, forgive them not. Forgive them not. Go to Isaiah chapter 27, verse 11. Isaiah chapter 27, verse 11.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 27, and verse 11.
Yes, sir. And who we talking about in this chapter right here? We are talking about Esau. We're talking about Esau. How do we know that? Because in verse 1, it talks about Leviathan, that crooked serpent. And he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. Okay? But not just that nation. This is going to go to anyone who latches on to his ways. So any one of Jacob, you latching on to his ways, you evil man. Okay, here's what's going to happen to you. Verse 11, read.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 27, and verse 11. When the boughs thereof,
talking about the tree limbs, okay? Because the tree limbs in the passage earlier, it talks about the leaves and falling off. So this tree becomes dead, and the limbs are no longer any good. So they fall off. And what are we going to do with this? These tree limbs that fall off? Read from the top.
When the boughs thereof are withered, they shall be broken off. The women come. And set them on fire.
That's the only good thing they for now, is to be set on fire. That's the only good use you are for now, is to keep this fire going. So all you iniquitous, the only thing you're going to be good for is to keep the fire going. That's it. You are the fuel for the fire. Read.
For it is a people of no understanding. Therefore, he that made them would not have mercy on them. And he that formed them will show them no favor. None. The only favor you getting is this fire. That's the only favor you got coming. Go to Mark chapter 3, verse 29. Therefore, forgive them not. Mark chapter 3 and verse 29. We're almost done. It's the book of Mark, chapter. You said Mark chapter.
Mark chapter 3, verse 29.
It's the book of Mark, chapter 3, and verse 29.
Read.
But he that shall blaspheme against the Holy Ghost.
This is Christ speaking right here. He that shall blaspheme. You lying against the law. You find excuse not to keep the law. That's the same thing as lying against the law. Read.
But he that shall blaspheme against the Holy Ghost.
And then you have the audacity to say, well, then let God judge me. Let God judge me.
Man, I heard that before.
Let God judge me. I guess we just gonna have to find out. Cause right now I don't believe nothing you're saying. And I'm bringing you the word. Read it from the top.
But he that shall blaspheme against the Holy Ghost had never forgiveness.
What?
Had never forgiveness.
It said, no. That is not what this Bible just said. He can't be forgiven.
But he that shall blaspheme against the Holy Ghost had never forgiveness.
Read.
But is in danger of eternal damnation.
But is in danger of eternal damnation. Let God judge me.
I don't want to hear you.
I don't want to hear this. What you saying? Let God judge me. Okay.
Well, let it be.
Oh, well, let it be.
Be careful what you
Let it be, brother. Let it be, sister. That's how I know you big and bad. The mean man.
Because you think he's slack in his judgment.
Let me give you some examples real quick, and then we're going to close out. So let me go here. I just got 2 examples, and we are done. 2 examples. 2 examples. 2 examples, and then we shall be done. Okay? Here's the article. Why Black history is filled with agents and informants. Why Black history is filled with agents and informants. The mean man. Okay? If you think Black informants are only used on the streets or in the days of COINTELPRO, you're dead wrong.
Dead wrong.
The FBI, CIA, and other government agencies in both the U.S. and abroad will do anything in their power to prevent the rise of a Black Messiah or an organization that will lead the masses into a new age of consciousness. Control is the business, there's that word, of government. And they want to keep business as usual. That means they will sabotage, spy on, and illegally imprison the very same people that is supposed to be working for. And with the recent discovery of Jesse Jackson Jr. as an informant and the whole FBI spy debacle, we can see that COINTELPRO hasn't gone anywhere.
Nowhere.
Black history is filled with Black agents. Throughout the long, tortured centuries of oppression against Blacks in America, a special contempt was reserved for those who dared snitch against the endangered slave community. People who made their livings by selling out their own people, sending information to dreaded slave catchers in the South, who used the infamous Fugitive Slave Act to track and re-enslave those who dared escape their fiendish clutches. Mumma Abu Jamal. In the Black conscious community, we tend to pay a disproportionate amount of attention on the near successes of our historical moments. What we fail to mention is likely the most critical aspect of those moments, how they came to their end. By understanding how past moments failed, we can learn lessons that prevent us from making the same mistakes all over again. Black agents destroyed Charles Deslandres. Charles Deslandres built and led the largest slave rebellion in U.S. history. As Charles and his entourage marched on New Orleans, they boosted their numbers with slaves from other plantations. On the 2-day, 20-mile march to New Orleans, as many as 500 slaves joined their ranks. The slaves had come from all over the world: the Congo, Cuba, Kentucky, Asante Kingdom, Senegambia. Many of these men had been warriors in African civil wars with extensive combat experience. Unfortunately, many more slaves, my apologies, Y'all should have told me. I apologize. I didn't know. Okay. Where did I leave off? Unfortunately, many more slaves betrayed the uprising by either voluntarily alerting their masters or negotiating their individual freedom in exchange for intelligence. As a result, Charles Dessalines was captured. His hands were chopped off while he was still alive, but cauterized to keep him alive. He was tortured for the better part of a day, shot in both legs, and then burned alive in January 15th. His body was cut up and displayed inside of the city as a lesson to all those who would follow his example. And to this day, very few people have even heard of Dessalines, let alone the movement he held. Black agents destroyed Marcus Garvey. According to the FBI website, 3 African Americans by the names of Earl F. Titus, Arthur Lowell Brent, and Thomas Leon Jefferson were used to derail Marcus Garvey and his organization. In his book, Negro with a Hat, required reading for all members of the Pan-African Alliance, author Colin Grant details how Black agents infiltrated Garvey's Black Star Line and sabotaged the ships. These same agents would give valuable intelligence to J. Edgar Hoover, the same man who issued the infamous FBI directive, prevent the rise of a messiah who could unify and electrify the militant Black nationalist movement. In other words, the same Black informants that destroyed Marcus Garvey created the blueprint for COINTELPRO and the destruction of Stokely Carmichael, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., Geronimo Pratt, Huey P. Newton, George Jackson, the movement, and thousands of other men, women, and children. Black agents destroyed Denmark Vesey. Denmark Vesey was born a slave in the Caribbean and worked in the country of Haiti, then known as French Saint-Domingue. He eventually moved to the city of Charleston in South Carolina as a youth. Winning a large sum of cash, Vesey would buy his freedom and began working under the trade of carpentry. He would help to create a branch of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, AME, but his building was shuttered by white authorities. Angered by the closing of his church and finding inspiration in the 1791 Haitian Revolution, Vesey would begin planting seeds to start a similar revolution among the slaves in Charleston. Planning the uprising to occur during Bastille Day on July 14, 1822, Vesey hoped to liberate slaves and slave owners. Both free slaves and those under ownership were recruited for the task, numbering into the thousands. Sadly, the Vesey-led uprising would not take place due to a treasonous act from inside his camp. 2 slaves who stood in opposition of Vesey's plans leaked the plot to their masters, resulting in Vesey, 130 Blacks and 4 whites to be charged by Charleston authorities. Of the convicted, 37 of those involved in the revolt plans were hanged, including Denmark Vesey. Okay. And the article goes on. And the article goes on of nonstop mean men. Nonstop mean men. Okay. I want to read this one. Okay. An informant. Is that the one? Right. Yeah. No, I want this photograph is what I'm after right here. William O'Neill, the FBI informant who infiltrated the Black Panthers responsible for the assassination of Black Panther Party chairman Fred Hampton. There he is right there. Here he is, right here. Okay, Fred Hampton. Okay, they do not want a black uprising. Okay, so read this article. Read this article. I'm pushing. The last thing. You all got the title of this article. Okay. Why Black history is filled with agents and informants. Why Black history is filled with agents and informants. I want you to write this article down. I want you to read the totality of this article. Okay. And the last thing I want to share tonight. The last thing I want to share. Okay. Okay, you can write this down. So name of this video, America is not a racist country. Senator Tim Scott delivers the GOP response to Biden's speech. Okay, we're gonna watch from 1 minute 19 seconds to 1 minute and 28 seconds. Here we go.
Hear me clearly. America is not.
Okay. That's what he says. That's what this man says.
Either like he messed up by saying that.
Bald head, no facial hair, no mustache. Okay.
Why no?
If we try to bring any of these laws to him, he's going to reject everything we have to say. All right. And with that, we hope you enjoyed this, what we shared out. Once again, share this video. Most of the videos are not here, but hopefully you can go and into YouTube and watch those videos, so you can see what we were viewing here in the classroom. Reach out to us. Shalom, Most High in Christ bless each and every last one of you.